Nick, what's up, buddy?
What's up, dude?
How's it going?
Going good, man. How are you?
I'm chilling, man. This is my brother, Dominic. He's my co-host. I think you guys have probably met before in the past, possibly.
Hey,
Uh,
Yeah,
Dom.
what's up, man? No, I came down back in the day to check the site out, and we sat down, chatted for a little while way back. So I'm sure you're about 10,000 deep on those stories by now, but we have met in the past. So
Nice, man. Nice. Where you at?
I am in Los Angeles
Oh, you're in
right now.
LA.
Yeah,
And where
just
are you,
work.
Mike?
I'm in San Francisco, so I live out here by the ballpark. I don't want you know where AT&T Park is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I live across the street from the ballpark, and Dom is out in what's the neighborhood that you're in?
I'm in View Park, Windsor Hills. It's kind of in between like Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Heights, and Ladera and Inglewood, kind of in that area right next to the new stadium.
Nice.
Where are
Yeah.
you at? Newport still?
Yeah. Newport, Corona Del Mar.
So you aren't in what do they call that area, like 38th? It's like where the parties happen in Newport Beach. What's that
Yeah,
area
they
called?
call that the war zone.
Yeah, the war zone.
No, I'm not down there.
Did
I,
did
Yeah.
I,
did Chronic Taco survive the pandemic? Are they
I
still
I think
thriving?
I think they did, man. I think they did.
That place
Yeah,
always
they're
was
thriving.
primed for takeout. Anyways, there's no one hanging out in there.
well,
Yeah,
look,
man.
Nick, we're super pumped to have you on the Bridge to Bridge podcast.
Thanks for
For the
having me, man.
Yeah, for sure. For those who don't know, Nick's a Bay native, and he is the founder and CEO of his company, Cushco Holdings. Is that the correct name of the company now? I know you guys have gone through some changes.
We have, man. We started as Kush Bottles, and then we changed the name to Kushco Holdings. And we also do business as Kush Supply Co. So we've got a few names, but people just call us Kush.
Nice. And you guys are leading providers of ancillary products and services to legal cannabis and CBD industries. Isn't that right?
Exactly.
Yeah, man. I remember my days
Nailed it.
working.
You would have thought you would have worked there, bro. You nailed it.
But yeah, funny story. Nick and I met. We played against each other in a men's league for basketball when I had first moved down to Newport. And things got chippy on the court. There was definitely some smack talk there. 8 months later, I was jobless, looking for a job, and Nick brought me on to do sales. Obviously that stuff is left on the court for a reason, but just shows you what kind of stand-up guy he is. And like I said, we're really pumped to have you on the show. Um, and before we dive into the Green Rush stuff
I got to add to that story real quick too, because when I came down to visit Nick, I showed up and I was like, hey, he was showing me some stuff and checking some stuff out, and he was like, hey, do you have like a brother? You got like a brother down here, and I was like, yeah, dude, I do, Mike, and I was like, yeah, I showed him a pic, and Nick's like, oh, okay, looks familiar, and I'm oblivious to, like, I'm sure Mike, for the listeners out there, Mike is a nightmare on the court. And, I love my bro to death, but he is a certified nightmare. Just as far as the trash talk and can throw a couple good fits. Anyways, had to add that. That's all.
yeah, Nick, you're the same way though. I mean, you and Dal talk a lot of mess on the court.
100%, man. That's the only way to do it. And I've been reflecting on my smack talking days, and I realized, like, I really talked a lot more when I was winning. I didn't like to talk a lot when I was losing, but luckily I tended to win more than I lost. So I think that was the case with our battles back in the day too, Mike.
I was losing, so I was upset about losing, and I'm not a good loser. So I probably should have kept my mouth shut. But the story is sick because rather than hold a grudge, I got hired by Kush Bottles, and I was there for a very short period of time, but it was an important time for my growth, and I'm grateful that we're friends. But before we dive into the Kush stuff and learning more about like the business side of you, I'm interested to get a little bit of your background on growing up in the Bay and everything that happened pre Kush.
Yeah, man. Well, you met me when when I was just, playing basketball. But for a lot of my life, that was life. It was all about hoop. And I grew up in Santa Cruz, played a lot of ball, went over to Bellarmine in San Jose, played there for 4 years. We won the CIF championship a couple years, my junior and senior year. And then I actually took a year off to just literally just train. I trained with Marv Marinovich, the great physical trainer down in Southern California. I lived with actually he just passed away. Marv did. So the late Marv Marinovich, also the late Bob Gottlieb, who was a Division I coach and ran an AAU program. And I literally lived with Bob and trained with Marv every day. So I was like the only kid. Everyone else was in college partying, and I was living with a 75-year-old man who yelled at me, and I was going every day to train with Marv Marinovich, who is he's just a beast. So I was in there 3-4 hours a day. It was crazy, right? So a whole year, I didn't even go to school. All I did was train.
And growing up in Santa Cruz, like middle-class family, we're both parents around.
Yeah.
Kind of like that growing up.
Yeah. I was very fortunate. My parents actually quit for 10 years to have kids. So when I was real little, they were there the whole time. And then they ran out of money and then moved back to Santa Cruz. Spent my first 5 years in Oregon, and moved back to Santa Cruz. My dad got his old job back, and he was in the district attorney's office. So he used to put people in prison for things like marijuana, back in the 90s, which is when we moved back there. So yeah, I grew up there from age 5 to through high school. And we lived in a great place. My parents had bought the house back in 1970, so it was a prime location. This was before anyone was in Santa Cruz, so we were there early, and we got along just fine, and we're blessed, thankfully. So appreciate you asking that.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Oregon and Santa Cruz, I'm sure you came in prepared in the industry with some foundational knowledge.
That's the funny thing. I hung out in a lot of marijuana spots, but I was never into it. I never got into it. I actually believed all the misinformation, about how dangerous it is and how, it makes you dumb. And, also I played sports. So it was just like, yeah, you don't want to touch that. But, interestingly enough, knowing what I know now, I wish I would have been into it, and I wish I would have consumed while playing sports. I think it could be very beneficial to athletes. So unfortunately, fortunately, my views have obviously changed due to knowledge that I've accessed through my 10 years now in the industry.
And so how do you get to college at Southern Baptist? I feel like such a far-fetched place, being in Santa Cruz. Obviously you got UC Santa Cruz there, a lot of good programs.
The banana slugs.
Exactly. I mean, how do you end up out there?
Yeah. So, I like I said, I took that year off. I actually played a little prep school ball, and one of my buddies ended up going to junior college in Oklahoma. I went to San Jose State after that year, and then I didn't play much. So I wasn't having a good experience there. And my buddy was in this small town in Oklahoma, and he was loving life. And so I'm like, if this guy, he's from LA. So I said, if this guy can, enjoy Oklahoma, I'm sure I can too. And out there, as you know, the junior colleges give scholarships. So I went out there, unlike the West Coast where they don't give scholarships. So I went out there for a year, my sophomore season, played decently, and got recruited by Southwest Baptist, which was only about 5 hours away in Bolivar, Missouri. Went on a visit there, his Division II school, and really just loved the coach, loved the program. The fan base was pretty crazy, and they had a great squad. They were poised to really do well, and we did. We ended up being number 2 in the country at one point. So it was a great experience. But yeah, it was very odd for a kid out of Santa Cruz, California, to end up in Bolivar, Missouri, at a Baptist college, for sure. But it was a great experience. I'm glad I did it.
You guys went to the Sweet 16, right?
Yeah, for Division II, we went to the Sweet 16. We went to the tournament both years. Lost in the second round my first year, and then unfortunately I got injured my senior year. I tore my ACL, and so that it's about 4 games left in the season, and I tried to play on the torn ACL in the tournament, but unfortunately, it wasn't too.
Wasn't a smart move.
It wasn't a smart move. Wasn't a good move.
Lost some pep in the step.
Exactly.
That's a tough one to play through.
Yeah. I had a funny story. When I was a junior at Bellarmine in high school, we had a senior point guard that played the whole year on a torn ACL. So it's been done, but I didn't pull it off very well.
Maybe if you had some of that cannabis, that the stuff that's in the market right now.
Exactly. The miracle cures.
So I know you were team captain in college as well, right?
Yes.
And do you feel like that's kind of where you got your, itch to lead people? I mean, you're a CEO now, you're running your own company. Do you feel like it started there, or like, where do you feel like your entrepreneurial spirit started, or when did it?
Yeah, no, I think definitely sports had a lot to do with that. I mean, I think it just gives you confidence, and you're competitive, and it's just like you learn how to lead, you learn how to rally, you learn how to work, right? And so I never had a big ego, so for me it was just more about trying to build something, and try to make it. My business partner actually was a high school teammate of mine at Bellarmine, and he was a real serial entrepreneur and started a DJ company when we were in high school.
This is Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas. And Dallas. So Dallas was DJ Dazzy D back in the high school days, and
a lot of hair gel.
100%.
LA looks.
Yeah. He had it going. So but he was always doing all kinds of things, and so he in college started a moving and storage company that I got involved in after I hurt my knee and I was out of college, and I was working on college campuses, helping kids move out for the summer, and it was really a bootstrap business. The definition of bootstrap, no money. We were using student interns, and but I learned a lot from Dallas in terms of how to kind of take a lot of those skills from basketball into the business world, how to be more entrepreneurial, how to fake it till you make it, and we ended up selling that business to start Kush bottles. So it's kind of a cool story, but a lot of what I've what I've become is it's all been learned on the job. No real formal training, but it's just it's something that when you're competitive, when you've grown up working hard and trying to win, you figure it out.
What was the what was the kind of moment for you guys? Was it something that was you guys had this company, you sold it? What was the transition to Kush? And again, for the listeners, I know Mike mentioned it, but Kush being in the ancillary business, and for folks that are familiar with marijuana, they know, but for those not, when they go to the shop and it's, everything other than the flower, you guys pretty much provide in a sense, to shops and help facilitate that. So where'd the idea come from? Did you see a void? Kind of give us some insight into that.
Yeah, we did. We were looking, well, it's funny because when I got done playing basketball, and I was getting into business, and Dallas had told me, he said, we got to check out these cannabis clubs. And, I literally thought they were nightclubs, where they were selling cannabis, and, it turns out they were medical clubs, right? That's what people call them. And so, of course, I went in with, with my whole, all my knee surgeries and chiropractic reports. And, I was prepared to get this, make sure the doctor gave me my medical card. And again, for people that know the California medical cannabis industry, you don't quite need as much ammo.
I have a headache. Okay, here's the
Yeah.
card.
You had the file like my cousin Vinny did with the file case. You're like walking in and they're like, "What's that, dude?" Like
Yeah.
you know, I just need to
Yeah.
check. Like, hey, you got a pulse? Well, then you're signed off.
No, I know. It's funny. So I hadn't learned that at that point, but yeah, obviously got my card, started checking out the dispensaries, and yeah, we noticed, we noticed a lot of opportunity, right? This is a segment that nobody was paying attention to. I mean, these things were hiding in plain sight, and yet they were doing millions of dollars a year, a lot of these dispensaries. And we were, got to know some people in the industry, and one of the dispensary owners was trying to track down these vials. And we were kind of like, well, why is it so hard? And he's like, look, we're not a pharmacy. Like, we don't, order like, we don't have a warehouse. Like, we just need a few boxes. And we don't have a credit card. We don't, we're unbanked. We want to pay cash. And there's this guy that'll deliver them, and the guy's not available certain days. And so we basically said, well, I think we could probably get these for you. How much would you pay? And it was like, you do the math, and it's like, okay, well, we could order a container of these from China, bring in a container for 25 grand, hit the streets slinging vials, and turn the 25 into 50 grand, and go buy 2 containers. I mean, that was the business model. It's pretty simple. And we hit the streets ourselves. I mean, literally, we were driving door to door, making connections, trying to get people to switch over. And it was nice because it was all reoccurring revenue. So once you got somebody locked in, they were going to buy from you the next week and the week after. And I'd like to say we still have customers today, but the industry's changed so much, and a lot of those dispensaries have moved on. But some of the same people we still deal with today.
You bring up making connections. In my time at Kush, working the LA market, I felt like it was really difficult for me to, it was also like right before California went legal. So it was very like, it was a gray area, but I felt like it was really hard to like make connections with people. And phone numbers are changing, emails are changing. It's not like you just show up and people want to talk to you. It's very kind of like, why are you here? We didn't call for you, and nor do we want to talk to you. And I'm curious to kind of understand how you were able to navigate that, from being a regular guy in college to like, hey, having to figure out ways to navigate. Obviously, you can spark up with people or figure out ways to connect, but what did you do to kind of make those connections?
No, you're exactly right, man. I mean, a lot of these people, they don't really want to be known that they own these stores, and back in the day. And so you're walking in off the street, it's like, number one, are you a cop?
Right.
Are you the feds? And number two, like, why are you here? So we got that a lot. One of the things that we did was actually interesting. It goes back to basketball. There was another, great mentor of mine who's also passed away, named Gene Cotter. And he had started a basketball camp that's very famous in NorCal called Basketball Jones.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they're all over the state. And he's originally from Humboldt County. He's from Garberville. And so we would do camps, and I did it in the summers, to make money, during college and even after. And we would go to, Fort Bragg, and we'd go to Napa, we'd go to Garberville, McKinleyville, Eureka. And this guy was networked with everybody. I mean, he was the most charismatic guy. And so we made a lot of connections in that region. Well, I hadn't even thought about it at the time, but a lot of these people were growing cannabis. And when we started looking at the industry, I leveraged his network, and I found a lot of people that had product. And what they were looking for was, they had farms that they were growing. They wanted to find medical cannabis stores that they could sell to and make it quasi legal, right? Because it was important that people, wanted to be as legitimate as possible. And so we started being able to make those connections for people, which was huge, right? Because the growers wanted to get access to the clinics that had all the patients, which was mainly Southern California, and the folks in Southern California, of course, wanted the humble weed. So connecting people, that's kind of how we started. And it's funny because that's one of the value propositions today of why companies like to work with Kush, because we do have a great network. I mean, we just set up, one of our customers with a licensing deal in another state. I had another customer reach out and they want a license, or they want a co-packers in, a handful of states. And so we're going to make those connections. So, you kind of got to bring something to the table, right? And to your point, coming off the street into these stores in LA, like you were hit. I mean, they're like, what do you got for me? Why are you here?
Yeah.
You got to have that covered.
Yeah. I mean, I did it in the most, door-to-door way. I would pack one of the CR certified bags full of containers. I literally try to slip it through the door. I mean, any way I could get product in there, I would. So for folks trying to get into the industry and are going to be doing sales in this space, like what's your recommendation? Is it just bringing something to the table?
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, the industry is moving very fast. And so people don't, even though it's all nice people, and of course, people in the cannabis community tend to be very friendly, but people are moving, 100 miles an hour, right? And so, what's going to make them slow down to talk to you, right? And I think especially now with COVID, right, because you don't have these conferences and these kind of networking events. So, I really think that having something to offer, having a great network that you can leverage, being able to add value, and be able to articulate that value in a very definitive and concise manner, could get you an opportunity. But without that, you're just another, knock at the door. You're another email in my inbox. It's tough. It's really tough.
Hey, one of the questions I was going to ask Nick was, like, obviously, having started this company at the time you started it, you've been along for a lot of the ride, and a lot has happened. And I mean, if you go back to 2016, I remember watching the election results come in, and I was following the space at that time, and it's like state after state, legal, legal, legal. You're like, that's it. And you got to be thinking, owning your company, Kush, you and Dallas are watching, you're like, that's it. Gate, like, that's it. Then all of a sudden, curveball, Donnie wins and appoints Jeff Sessions. And then it's like, whoa, everything feels like at that point came to a screech. Could you talk about kind of watching that, being a business owner, seeing that change in the trend with all what you got? On one hand, the states are legalizing, and then the Fed is like this like dark cloud that comes over where, like Mike was talking about, just when you think you can visit companies and they're, feeling safe, everyone's back on the defensive.
Yeah. No, and I mean, add another element, we were a publicly traded company, so we could literally, that emotional roller coaster that you just described, we could actually see that in our stock, right? Because that momentum was building and the market was booming and the stocks were taking off and everybody, all this excitement. And then, obviously, some questions about Donald Trump, and nobody kind of knew where he was really going to go. But then he appoints Jeff Sessions as the top lawyer in the country, our attorney general, and everyone's like, this can't be good. But what does it mean? Can we go backwards? I don't think so, right? I think we're safe. I think we're fine. And then, nothing happens, and you're just kind of in this state of limbo. And then all of a sudden, he decides to pull out, rip up the Cole memo. Why? Again, nobody even knows today because they didn't take any action. So it's a really weird, scenario that played out where, and Bill Barr to some extent, but the attorney generals under Trump, they were definitely anti-cannabis, but they actually, when you look at the record, were better for the industry than the AGs under Obama, who have now come, have now said, hey, we should have supported cannabis. but they used to put people in prison. They used to put people in jail for running dispensaries. And some of those people, unfortunately, tragically, are still in jail. And we're working with Weldon Angelos and Mission Green to help try to get them out. But it's funny because Trump, was definitely scarier, from the outside looking in. But from the inside looking out, it was actually a lot better than it was under the Obama administration. So it's interesting.
And what do you think about now? I mean, like as far as, does that uncertainty still exist? Is there still a lot of unpaved, decisions and just kind of like uncertainties, or is it finally catching up with the market? And do you feel now you're at a point where it's like, all right, like we may not be, at the point, I always think of like alcohol, right? And it still seems from where I'm sitting that marijuana is not at the, industry level of alcohol. Obviously, there's a lot of history there, but that path is set and paved, and there's a pathway to kind of the industry growing and getting there. Where's it at right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've reached the tipping point. The amount of states that have legalized, and we've got more coming. New York's going to do it legislatively. Virginia might, Connecticut might, Pennsylvania might. I mean, it's going to be a domino effect in the Northeast. So, we've got so much of the country already legal at the state level, and it's just the federal policy catching up. And now, and this is something where, I've been a lot of work I've been doing is kind of, on the political front and kind of discussing some of these dynamics. And I said, look, this is a very popular issue, and if the GOP doesn't embrace it, they're going to lose power. And sure enough, right, McConnell's gone, Schumer's in, and already we've had, this week, three senators, which is, I believe Wyden, Booker, and Schumer come out and say, here's our plan to legalize very quickly. We want to do it in this congressional session, right? So it's going to happen. Now, does other things get in the way of that kind of speed? Maybe, but it's going to happen. Is it in a month? Is it in 6 months? Is it in 2 years? I think it'd be hard to say it would take anything longer than 2 years at this point.
We when I look at kind of your career, obviously you guys go public in 2015. You're writing for Forbes and Bloom. Are you writing for Bloomberg as well?
Forbes. I actually had my recent op-ed was picked up by Fox News.
I mean,
yeah.
When do you know, hey, like what I've got going here is not just something where I'm going to make a few bucks and is a long-term play?
I mean, look, when the conversation started shifting, because we were kind of stigmatized and a lot of times we didn't even want to talk about this business, and we've got some other businesses that we could highlight. And then all of a sudden it shifted, right? And everybody wanted to talk about cannabis, and everybody thought it was the coolest thing. And so, it was really at that point, it was like, look, this is going to happen. You could just tell, people were into it, and it was going to move. And so it was just a matter of how long it's going to take, right? Is it going to be, happen in 2 or 3 years? Or it's going to take 10 years. And, it looks like it's probably going to be the midpoint of that. It'll be about 5 years from kind of when that shift happened. I think that was around 2016, right when we first went public. So, it's crazy. I mean, it's been a wild ride, but, I think, kind of, you never really feel like your work is done. I mean, there's always something new that pops up, and some new challenge to navigate. Last year we got hit with the vape crisis.
Yeah.
That was a significant challenge. It just came out of nowhere. So we got to have that mentality of like, we're still scrappy, even though we're, we do over, well over 100 million in sales, and, we're publicly traded, but we still have an attitude of being, very startup like, and, it's dynamic. And we got to be prepared to roll with the punches, however they come.
You mentioned politics, and I know, do you guys still have, I think you guys had someone from the company that was on the advisory committee at the state level. Are they still on that? Is that thing still going?
Yes, the BCC Advisory Commission. I think it's winding down. Ben Wu, who was our president and COO, has represented the company on there even after he left the company. He's represented us as as a consultant to the company. And, look, that's one thing. We've done a lot of other things. We've worked with regulators and legislators, and, recently I was actually appointed by Governor Newsom to be on the Orange County Fair board. So I'm on the board of directors for the Orange County Fair, and but I've spent a lot of time with the governor, and he was certainly a leading advocate for Prop 64 when he was a lieutenant governor. And I think he really has wanted this program to be successful. And we're starting to see that, right? I think California is really starting to emerge as a successful, example of legalization of cannabis. Took a little longer than everybody hoped. But, I think that's, sort of, where we can play is not only in shaping policy when it comes to child resistant packaging and some of the nuances that we understand, but actually talking to, high level elected officials about the way that these programs need to be structured to see success. And, we knew that California, had a challenge because they gave the local cities the right to ban, and a lot of them did. And so it was really about knocking down those retail bans and getting retail open in as much municipalities as possible, and then delivery. And the state stepped up big to make sure that delivery could not be banned. And it's still being fought out in the courts, but that's a big win for the consumers that want access, safe, legal access. And, just kind of helping people understand that, this isn't about, do you want cannabis in your state? Actually, we had Senate leader, former leader McConnell, come by our office once. And, it's what I explained to him. I said, look, this isn't about whether you want cannabis in Kentucky. It's already there. At this point, you're just deciding, do you want the legal version that comes from, real companies that have employees that are paying taxes, that test their product, that put it into child resistant containers and label it? Or do you want these other products that are marketed to kids, that are in, shoddy packaging and sold in parking lots with no ID checks? That's what you're deciding between, right? And people haven't moved on from the draconian viewpoint of, well, I want to keep drugs out. That ship has sailed, right? The drugs are there. The question is, do you want them legal, tested, regulated, and safe? Or do you want to let the cartels thrive? And do you want to let these drugs go into the wrong hands of potentially kids on the street because the drug dealers just don't care? And so these are the types of questions that we've been asking with people high up. I mean, like I said, we were with the Senate leader at the time, talking about this. And so, I've spent a lot of time with, Congressman Matt Gaetz, for example. I know he's very polarizing, but, he's on the right side of cannabis. And, we were on Cheddar TV not too long ago, he and I, and talking about, how really this isn't even a partisan issue. It's more of a generational issue. And these, it's unfortunate, but politics are dominated by folks from the older generation. And so they've got these draconian views. And so, Gaetz has set out to build a coalition of cannabis supporters within his party, which include a lot of members from a different generation. And that's what we need. We need people asking the right questions, having those conversations, and advancing the ball. Because, in today's partisan world, protesting and advocating to change, you got one guy on the other side waving a sign the exact opposite, right? And you're never going to get anywhere. And so you really need to get people to think differently, and they're not going to do that unless you have an open and honest conversation.
Now, there's one benefit, right, for you guys with the federal issue, and I thought about this when I came to visit, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, the Fed ban keeps a lot of the big corporations out of the packaging industry. And, you talk about relationships, and a lot of people were thinking, a lot of the conversation was like, I remember with Kush was like, well, once it's legal, Walmart can just make, they got the resources to make, 100 million vials, et cetera. but obviously you guys now have the head start. You have the relationships. You have you're integrated into the system. What do you see as challenges? Do you see threats with a legalization at the federal level, or do you feel like, hey, you guys have gotten to that point where you don't have to worry about big business coming in trying to, take business away?
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, we're never going to have that attitude, right? Like we've made it, and we're always defending our turf, right? I think this window has given us an opportunity to get more size and scale and build defensible moats to protect against that competition. But people say a lot. Well, what about big packaging? I mean, big packaging has been in the cannabis industry for several years now. Berry Plastics announced their entrance about 2.5 years ago. Berlin Packaging, who's like 2.5 billion in sales, they came in about 3 years ago. But there's a difference between kind of being in cannabis and really being in cannabis, right? And so that's why I think these companies haven't found a lot of success. I think two things need to happen, right? Number one, the market needs to evolve and sort of look and feel more like traditional marketplaces that these companies are used to dealing in, right? And that will happen with federal legalization, and years down the line. And also, these companies need to really get entrenched in the space, which they're probably not going to do at this stage because it's too dynamic and too chaotic, and it's also a little bit gray with the lack of federal legalization. So, I think we've got this window still, another really probably 3 to 5 years where we want to build as much size and scale as possible, and we want to lock in as much business as possible, and we want to create our own defensible moat, whether that's intellectual property, innovative products, whether that's contractual relationships. There's a lot of things that we can do, the secret sauce, so to speak. And we've got a little bit of time, but we've got to move fast, right? Because we're not going to have these favorable dynamics forever. We know that it's going to continue to change and evolve, and just like it has over 10 years. So I think if there's anything we've proven, it's that we can pivot and adapt and move as we need to continue to position ourselves for success, regardless of what happens in the macro landscape.
I've heard you speak at a few different events, while working at Kush and just kind of doing my research. And I've heard you talk, specifically to investors in the space about making sure you don't invest in fluff, and that there's a lot of companies out there who, there's a perception that they're going to be doing something great in the space, when in fact they're really not. Can you expand on that? For our viewers who maybe are interested in investing in this space, and maybe some things they should be looking out for, when they are investing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a period of time where, everybody was doing a cannabis startup and everybody was getting funded, and, those days have ended. So it's really, really hard to get funded in cannabis unless you have something differentiated. So I would just be wary about doing, initial, friends and family rounds, because what's going to happen after that, right? Unless this company has a clear, immediate path to profitability and self-sustaining, there's not a lot of capital to come by unless you've got something really differentiated or a technology stack or something like that, right? So, that's one word of advice. I think, also all of these companies saying, hey, we're going to raise money and go public. You don't see as much of that today, but that was the pitch for years, right? It's like, oh, hey, you're going to get in here at this price and we're going to go public at double that, and you're going to make a killing. Obviously that worked for some folks. It didn't work for a lot of companies. People got burned, and that market is somewhat closed. So I don't think you hear as much of that anymore. You agree, right?
Oh, dude, that was the hot. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm not one to ever give financial advice, but I remember that hysteria was like, I got the list of these are my marijuana stock tickers. And there's a lot of them that are like, again, it's like in the movie where there's the shack in the middle of Iowa with the sign of the company on the side. And you're like, that's what you're investing in. And there was a lot of duds out there, but there was, I'll tell you, one of them that I used to be following close was Aphria, Canopy, and Aurora, and the Canadian space seems like it has just boom become a world supplier of the flower.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, you know, I remember there were some heavy hitters in those like long sea of kind of, you know, duds that were like, whoa.
Yep.
So
Yep. There, look, there's clear winners now that have emerged. Now, could you have picked them all, 3 years ago? Probably not. But now I think it's pretty safe to say, who the winners are going to be, at least at that upper tier, right? So, I think that's what's bringing, new institutional investor capital in, is that comfort of like, this isn't a fly by night thing. These companies are big enough. They've got enough revenue, enough profit, enough, balance sheet that, I can invest in them and they're not going to be gone tomorrow. Right. And that's the case with a lot of these large companies. And we're proud to be a partner to some of them, right, and providing them with packaging and vape pens and energy products like we do.
there's
Yeah,
a,
go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, there's another industry that I see a lot of similarities to, also a lot of differences, and that being the crypto blockchain space. You know, real briefly, any thoughts on that as far as your, you know, being in the industry, where you see that fitting in, how you see it changing the industry, or is it kind of like, hey, it's going to change, you know, your industry like it changes every other industry?
Yeah, man, I think so. I think, look, cannabis has got so much scrutiny, regulatory scrutiny, that it's like, it's not going to all of a sudden, let blockchain, which has also got a ton of scrutiny, all of a sudden intersect, right? So I think it's going to be kind of two separate worlds for the time being. I think obviously blockchain has the potential to be a game changer, in every sector. And I think it will get regulated, right? Because that's just what happens. And after that happens, I think we'll see how that kind of pops up in cannabis. But I've kind of ignored a lot of that. I know people talked about cannabis can't bank. Maybe they should use cryptocurrency. And that was never feasible, because ultimately it was a problem with cash collection, right? The consumers coming in, spending cash. How do you get that into a cryptocurrency? Like, you have to have a financial institution that will take that cash. And that's always been the big challenge. Now, luckily, banking has vastly improved, and there's a lot of banks that are supporting the industry. And so as a result, we see a lot less cash. I mean, back when you were around, Mike, I mean, I would
Oh,
imagine
I
50%, 60% of our biz was cash,
driving to
physical cash.
downtown LA, having to go in some crazy, apartment building to collect. Uh, yeah, I mean, it was cash only.
Yep. Yep. And so now we've moved past that. I mean, I think less than 10% of our business, less than 5% is cash now. So that's a good thing. And that was just a dangerous thing. I mean, an employee like you, I mean, luckily you're a big guy.
Yeah.
I think you could defend yourself, but
Mhm.
having people driving around with that type of cash, I mean, just wasn't safe. And to think that, it's very frustrating to think that elected politicians couldn't just put together the Safe Banking Act or something that would solve it, to protect people. It's crazy. But, I think people have figured it out. Credit unions, et cetera, have stepped up and they filled the void.
I know Dallas has to be circling some kind of crypto venture. He's got some in the works, but you know, it's probably that's to come in the future.
You know,
Yeah, no, we got all kinds of ventures, but no, crypto's not one of them. I
D,
that it's too
DJ Daz has to have. He's got like there's a mining machine right now, like you know, just yeah.
Nick, obviously, since 2015, you mentioned the vape crisis, COVID. I feel like, you know, it's ups and downs, and at times it can be really stressful. And obviously there's a lot of, good times. How have you been able to manage and be the CEO of your company through some of these, times, with COVID being something that had never happened before. And then, the vape crisis, obviously crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, it hasn't been easy. Luckily, I got cannabis to fall back on, for those dark nights. Um, but in all seriousness, like, one of the things I think a lot of people are trying to work on their own mental philosophies. And I've been into someone got me this book called The Daily Stoic, which is great. Been reading one of those every day, and its main thing about Stoicism, which is a ancient philosophy that's really still very relatable, is controlling what you can't control, and realizing not letting things that you can't control consume you. And so what you mentioned are things that I certainly can't control, right? The vape crisis, COVID, but I could control our reaction to those things. And I think, ask anybody. I think we were the first. We were kind of the loudest voice out of that vape crisis, right? I was the first one on TV saying that this was not legal cannabis that caused it, and people were scared to say that, but I knew, right? It's like we've had legal vaping for years and we've never had an issue like this, so why all of a sudden? It had to be something else. And I was proved correct, but I was on Fox News arguing with a host there, where they're literally bringing on parents to try to create that dynamic of here I am, the bad CEO. And it's like, no, we're promoting high quality products in the legal industry, right? You keeping this illegal, you're the one that's creating the problem, right? So we were out in front on that, and we did everything we could do. And literally, we just didn't know what was going to happen. And, California is a big market. We didn't know if they were going to ban vape. I mean, I remember I flew up to meet with the governor, right? And just, not that he's going to listen to me, but just to talk, right? And make sure he knew what was kind of going on from our perspective. And,
is Newsom an old WCAL guy? I was gonna say WCAL.
No way.
No, he wasn't. I was gonna say that's a pact, right? If you get another WCAL guy, Bellarmine comes by, he says, "Hey, look, I got the Attorney General, but look, where'd you go? WCAL? No, okay,
No, I know he went to Santa Clara though. He's a Bronco.
Yeah.
I just looked online. He went to Redwood High.
Oh, okay. In Marin.
Yeah.
Damn,
yeah. So
he probably knows knows Lavin. Then we had Lavin on the show, and we were asking, where did he go? Drake? No.
Yeah, he went to Drake High School. Yeah.
We're like, how come they hit so many threes out there? You go play a tournament and it's like 94% 3-point ratio. Like, come on, dude, what's going on? You guys just shoot threes in the gym for 24 straight? Like, and he kind of was like, yeah, kind of.
So you guys, and then with COVID, obviously, everyone was affected by that in major ways. I mean,
it's funny because we sort of look at these things in two ways, right? We've had so many challenges hit, and either it's a challenge that's unique to us and we hate those, but if it's a challenge that everyone has to deal with, it's like, well, hey, everyone's got to deal with this, right? So COVID was one of those things where you couldn't complain. It just is what it is. And you just kind of theorize on what's going to happen and when, but you react and you make do. And it's crazy because you think back now, we're in February. I mean, I've basically been, we've been remote for almost a year, majority remote. We have our warehouse crews, which are our frontline folks that are just crushing it. Right. And they've been in there making sure orders get out. But the rest of us, we've been working from home, and it works. Everybody thought it was, there's no way it would work. And hey, maybe we'll do it for a few months but we're coming up on a year now and it works. So it's amazing, how the ingenuity of people, of companies, and certainly, these types of, disasters, bring that out and you kind of showcase it. And, I feel confident based on our track record is like, we can kind of, we can navigate things that come our way. We have a track record of doing that. And, I think that could be a competitive advantage because if, it's affecting everybody in our industry or, our competition, and we can navigate it better than them, that puts us in a superior position. Right. So you got to look at it that way. Every challenge can be looked at as an opportunity.
Surviving the game. Dude, I'm sure the last time when we sat down versus what now about the industry is like, if you could visit your old self 7-8 years ago, it'd be like, dude, you have no clue. I'll show you what's really going on, but it's crazy. Hey, I had a quick question. Just, whether it's companies, products, or trends, what are some things that you're excited about, coming up in the next 5 years specifically? Whether it's like, hey, we're really, excited we announced a partnership with this company or this is a trend, or here's where we think this is going, the space stuff that you're just like, hey, we're excited for a project you're working on or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we just put out on social media today some of the products we just did with GTI. He's one of the biggest operators in the space for their Rhythm brand, and these are custom built products. So we've got this beautiful jar, we've got this tube that packages the vape pens, and we've got their printed vape cart or vape pen, right? So it's beautiful. It looks great, but this is the trend we're seeing. People want to differentiate and bring new innovative products to the market, because this is still early days in terms of building consumer brands and loyalty. And how are you going to get that consumer to pick your brand, right? You're not advertising on TV. You're not, nobody's national, right? It's all state by state, and these consumers are coming in a lot of times for the first time, right? Illinois just legalized. New Jersey will have its first sales hopefully this year. Arizona just opened their doors 2 weeks ago. And so when that consumer comes in, to the dispensary for the first time and looks around at all the products, what's going to draw his or her attention toward your product? And so we, as a company that makes these products, from packaging and labeling, and we do some of the design work, we make the vape pens, we have an opportunity to help showcase some of our clients and allow them to build that customer and brand loyalty at point of sale. So it's a great position to be in, and we're seeing more companies want to invest in that, which is a great trend. So we like that. We also are seeing companies focused on quality. It was one of the things, one of the big takeaways from the vape crisis is, and we came out early on it. We said, look, this is a short-term negative, without a doubt, but we think it's actually potentially a long-term positive. Why? Because it's going to bring awareness to the dangers of consuming street product. And if you're accustomed to buying cannabis from your dealer and you never had any issues, and your dealer's cheaper than the dispensary, why change, right? This is a wake-up call, right? People getting sick and dying, as sad as it is a wake-up call that, and it's sad that it even is true, but like, don't smoke anything off the street, right? And we know that that's driving what we're seeing today is this, flight to quality. Where people want to be actually ahead of the testing requirements, because not every state is the same, but they're like, hey, look, I know that Michigan is testing for this, or I know California is testing for this, so I'm going to test for it in Arizona even before it's required, right? So that's a great trend that we're seeing as well, is sort of this, overemphasis on quality, on testing and compliance. And that also translates to products we sell. We see a lot of people migrating upstream to buy C-cell hardware, which is the best of the best, even though they have to pay more, because they want to make sure that they're not going to have any issues, they're not going to have any liability, and then they're going to be able to deliver a premium consumer experience.
I love it, man. Well, I think we could probably talk to you all day. We do have a lightning round where we ask San Francisco or Bay Area questions. It's kind of like there's a championship
Do you
belt.
have the belt? Speaking of hardware, because Nick, you mentioned hardware, but do you have the hardware?
Yeah, I gotta go.
I mean, do you want to go grab that? Come on, bro. Don't leave him hanging with that. Yeah, no, man. It's been awesome watching you guys grow and navigate a lot of things that would usually cripple a lot of companies. So it's exciting, man, for what's on the horizon for you guys, for sure.
Oh man. Yeah, I know. It's like,
so here's the belt, bro. This is the bridge to bridge lightning round belt.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I gotta take that home, man.
It's currently being held by the Taboni sisters, Jacqueline Taboni, who's on that show, The L Word, on Showtime, and Gianna, who's a correspondent for Vice. You may have, you might see him around town every now and then, but yeah, so they hold it. And just to give you a heads up, it's one of those things. It's kind of like it's supposed the questions are tough. They get harder. So we're going to start with like an entry level round. We'll call it like startup. And then we'll move into like, established venture capital business round. We'll get to a third round, which is like thriving. And then it's like, hey, blue chip, you've made it. You're at the championship. That is it. You are a household name. So there's 4 rounds. It's very tough. So again, we'll try to
You
give
said
a
it was
couple.
tough. Just break the
I
question.
gotta say it's tough because it's tough, dude. You know what I mean? Okay, but
right.
we'll start with the startup round, and as a WCAL guy, this should be not too difficult. All right. So WCAL, playing in the Super Bowl this Sunday is Tom Brady, and I gotta say the question is, where did he go to high school, and what other San Francisco baseball legend is an alumni at this school? I need the name of the high school that Tom Brady went to.
It's easy, man. Sarah Barry Bonds.
Done. My man is out of startup. He secured some funds. Like you said, you guys are now we're getting into like some venture capital. Okay. Mike has this one. We're going to let Mike jump on this one for question 2.
All right. Which NBA hoop player, originally from Oakland, California, and also a rapper, put this recent track out?
Oh,
Doesn't just have live sports. It's a life.
is that Nate Robinson?
No.
No, not Nate. I'll tell you what.
Oh, that's Damian Lillard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
Yes.
We're going to give you that slip up because Mike
Yes.
kind of phased out the music. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
No,
yeah.
I didn't want to give it to
Yeah,
him.
Switch to the
I
streets.
didn't want to give him the whole thing because he
Yeah.
says his name.
I know.
Okay. Well, at least if I get it right, then it's all
You're good. You're good.
Okay, so you've secured the venture capital fund. You're rolling now. You know what I mean? And now we're going to go into like the next level. This is a tough one. This is a music and a marijuana question. So, which Bay Area rap group that vehemently opposes Bammer weed to the point where they went on record on a track saying, we just don't smoke it in SFC. Don't give me no Bammer weed. And that is their track. Do you know the name of the group that came out with that song? It's
Man.
tough. I'm sure if we played it,
I know.
but it's tough, man. I know,
You got me, man. I'm stumped. I can sing the song.
we have given yeah. Okay. Do you want to just take a guess? I mean,
I can't guess.
okay.
I can't do it.
I'm curious to see if you would have got the belt question. So the answer to that one is RBL Posse, the RBL Posse.
Ooh,
But
haven't
Damn, I
heard that
thought
name
you
in a
would for
long
sure-
time.
yeah,
I thought you would for sure get that.
I'm sure you guys played it before the games.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
It's also an SFC kind of in there, Bellarmine. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do for this special because this question is so hard that if you get this right, you're getting the belt. That's how tough this question is.
All right.
Which Bay Area boxing legend
Oof.
from the Fillmore district of San Francisco just opened up a marijuana dispensary in San Francisco called Authentic 415?
Oof.
It's tough, dude. It's like
He has LA back.
I'm sure someone on the team knows him because you guys have probably talked to him, reached out, but you're operating at a high level, and so
Yeah.
it's tough. He was a guest on our show, and I'm sure you're streaming that every day to and from the hoop gym and to the office meetings. But
From the living room to the bedroom, you mean?
Oh no, man. Who is it? I'm sure I read the headline.
it is Kareem Mayfield.
Kareem Mayfield.
Yeah,
Yep.
from the Bay Area. He
Just opened up
also was a title owner, and he opened up a shop in San Francisco.
Now,
We had him
now
on.
when he was on the show, did he win the belt?
He did.
He did. He was the first guy to win the belt. And
Damn, that's
yeah.
impressive, man. Talk about winning belts.
yeah, he I'm sure it's not his most prideful belt that he owns or had, but I'm sure the welterweight belt was better. But
Yeah.
no, man, those are good. The first two were good, and again, it's tough, but I'm sure we'll catch up with you again, and
I love what you guys are doing, man.
Yeah. Hey, thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much for coming on the show, Nick. We're proud to have you on and grateful that you're a friend of the show. And we'll send you a picture of the belt. That way, next time you're on, maybe
I'll get some motivation, man,
Yeah.
to come back on.
yeah,
I'll
for
go.
sure.
I'll go start a couple more companies, and then I'll be back on and
Yeah,
talk about it.
exactly. Oh man, exactly.
I'll see you
Yeah.
guys soon.
All right,
Thank
man.
you,
Thanks so
man.
much, Nick.
Yeah, man. Take care, guys. Hope to see you soon in person when this whole thing's over.
Yeah, we'll grab some beers.
Absolutely.
good,
And best of luck moving forward. Hey, we know Kush is going to be, you know, just killing it for the next several years and then some. So again, big kudos for everything you've been through and navigated during pretty crazy times. So really excited for Kush and you and the team.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
All
it,
right,
guys.
brother, man.
Take care.
Talk soon.